Hello. You are listening to the Carroll Connection with your host, Jared Carroll.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Carroll Connection. I'm your host, Jared Carroll, here to bring you guys another great episode. Did want to take a chance to shout out last week's episode 135 with Johnny Costa. His first appearance since episode 92, and we talked pretty much what he's been up to in the last year. We talked a little bit about him traveling, going to Canada, what that experience was like for him, what it's been like raising his daughter over the past year, and how things have kind of changed a little bit. And it was just a really great conversation. It's always great to connect with people who've been on the podcast and want to come back, because kind of validates the experience that we're having here and that I'm kind of doing something good, which is always good to know. If you guys want to listen to that episode, you can check it out at thecarrollconnection.simplecast.com. Also available Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all the major listening platforms. If you like to watch your podcast, you can check it out on YouTube at The Carroll Connection, or you could search Jared M. Carroll. It should pop up right for you. And if you want to be a guest or return as a guest, you can hit me up on Instagram at Jared M. Carroll or at The Carroll Connection. Or if you got my number, text me or Snapchat me, however you want to contact me, and I can set that up going forward. But that brings me to today's episode 136 with Tyler Benson.
Hello.
Welcome to the podcast, man.
Thank you very much. Excited to be here.
Yeah, and I've had quite a bit of your bandmates on the podcast,
I know.
Kind of collecting the Infinity Stones here with you guys. So I'm excited to interview you and kind of learn a little bit more about you. So just we'll start off with who you are and what you're doing currently.
All right. My name is Tyler Benson. I'm working right now at Chili's in East Providence. I'm 20 years old, and I'm in a band. That's my big thing. So
yeah, just a little band, just like side, keeping it humble. I like that.
Fresh,
yeah.
Of course.
Excellent band, by the way.
Thank
we'll
you.
talk a little bit about that later in the podcast.
Yes, we will touch upon it.
How I like to open up the podcast is like to talk about family dynamic, and I always like to explain to any new listeners why I do this, and we're talking about your life. So I like to kind of build on that kind of foundation. So I look at it like a house. We're building the foundation, want the foundation to be solid. So we want to talk about your family dynamic, your upbringing, what it was like for you. And we kind of build upon that. And obviously we're doing it in hours. So we're trying to get like a lot of stuff into a little time period. So, but I think it's important to talk about these things because we all have different backgrounds, but we all can relate to certain aspects of everyone's life if you're willing to listen. Yeah. So I think it's important. So I'll let you kind of take the floor with this, and whatever you're comfortable with sharing, I'll allow you to do that.
Cool. Yeah. So, I was born in Providence, Children's Women and Infants Hospital, and I grew up in Seekonk. My parents were together up until probably like I was 6 or 7-ish, I want to say. It's foggy. I was a kid, so, but they split, and I pretty much was in a dual household where I was going back and forth just through elementary school, middle school. My dad's my mom's, my dad's my mom. So, that was a lot of kids probably go through that with just divorced parents. I feel like the divorce rate is higher than it used to be. So I'm sure a lot of kids can relate to that, but it was obviously like I didn't know that I was an individual, so it was tough. I dealt with it in my own ways, but it still kind of shaped how I see things now, and I still think about it. Like I said to you earlier, that the dual household is very it's different. You don't really feel like you have a home base and one place to have all your things up and make it your own space, and so yeah, it was just different, but. We made it through. It was me and my brother growing up. Up until I was a freshman in high school, my mom with my stepdad had my sister, who she just turned 6 this month. So she's doing her thing, little rascal, literally little rascal. But yeah, so it was always me and my brother growing up. We did basketball together, baseball when we were really little together. Like he did soccer. We were doing our things. We were little kids. He's a big theater buff. He always has been. He sings. He's a great singer. He's in New York right now. He's going to school. He just graduated from the new school in New York. He's a character, to say the least. But Yeah. So, but yeah, growing up, I had my mom and my dad still in my life. They're still very much part of my life, and I appreciate that more than anything. My dad's low key a hard ass, but he's a cop, so he's
Oh yeah,
he's, he's
yeah.
gonna be a hard ass. But I can only thank him for it because like I think it put me in a good spot. So, um, my mom was a nurse, so she was very like caring, very motherly instincts, I would say. But she busted her ass. She did her thing. Um, but yeah, I moved around a little bit, and but right now, my mom's in East Providence. My dad's right down the street, honestly, right down over in Seekonk. So um, yeah, I'm just kind of going back and forth. Usually at my mom's, hanging out. That's kind of I guess, my base right now. I would say just because my work and school and the band is just probably closer over there. So but yeah, growing up was cool. I didn't have any like bad memories. There were always good memories. Obviously, like any other family, there was always hardships, but
Yeah, yeah.
we had to go through it. But
But it sounds like that you, for the most part, were able to like have like the good childhood though.
yeah,
Like
oh
even though
yeah, oh yeah, I
like
had the best childhood.
I think it's good though, because like when you hear parents getting divorced and when you're young and stuff, like it can go a couple different ways. And it sounds like for the most part, it was like a solid like co-parenting
Yeah,
situation for
yeah,
the most part, which is
exactly.
like the best case scenario in a
hmm
situation like that where you're able and I think it's a credit to your parents for both having stable careers and
Yep.
having that foundation too.
Yeah, they were like when they first got divorced. If I'm not mistaken, they would do 3 days on, 3 days off. So they would pretty much move their work schedule around at that point to be able to do that because we were still like little like so they wanted it to be 50-50, and obviously there's only 7 days in a week, so we did 3 days back and forth. And at my mom's house we were the wrestling household. We watched WWE all growing up. Loved that. My favorite, the best. But that was like the thing that we did at my mom's. That's what we did. I loved being there at my mom's. My dad's, me and my brother, we just chilled. They had the dogs. My stepmom was like a dog. Um, like we would hold it up. Foster, that's the word. Foster mom. So we had a bunch of dogs in and out. So it was always cool. I loved being around them. But we have two over there right now. The most we had was like 4 or 5 or something like that. Just
Damn.
little guys running around. Yeah, it was wild. Um, but yeah, no, both my step parents are cool people too. Um, my stepmom's a real estate agent. Again, the dogs, she's cool. My stepdad, he's an arborist. You know what that is? An
No.
arborist. It's funny because I like to call him the Lorax, just in my head, because he brings trees back to life. He like
Okay,
medicates
okay.
trees and stuff. And like when I was a kid, I'd be like, "What's that tree?" And he'd be like, "Oh, you tell me the tree." I was like, "Okay, cool."
I think
But
that's
no,
gonna be really valuable the way that
yeah,
our
right,
world is going right
right.
now. Yeah.
So, but yeah, so he's doing that, and he's been at that company since I was a kid. So, but I love all of them equally. They're all like my family, all of them. My
That's
step
awesome to
parents and
hear though.
everything.
Like
Yeah, it's
that's really
great.
good. Like I
It's a
want to
good
know
dynamic. It really is a good
what
dynamic.
the dynamic's been like becoming like an older brother to a younger sister now. Because
Yeah,
like obviously it
so
was just you and your brother for a
yeah,
long time.
that was it. It was just growing up. It was just me and my brother. So when I was a freshman in high school, or just before that, I would say my mom obviously we found out that she was pregnant. Did a big thing. She gave us like little baby clothes, and we pulled them out of the bag, and we were like, "Oh shit!" So we were super excited, and me and him always wanted a sister because it was just us brothers growing up, and just two brothers. Like they fight, like we go at it with
I got
two
all brothers.
boys. Yeah,
Yeah.
so yeah, we were always like, "Oh, like I want a sister, like so bad," like when we were kids. So we were finally getting a sister, and they got married, obviously, eventually. Um, but yeah, it was very different. It was a whole new dynamic with a baby in the household, which even just like the little things, because like we just like within the last like 2 months took the like the door handle guard off of the door handle, because now like she's like a conscious human being, so she can like we can be like, "Yo, don't grab the door handle, you're gonna fall down the stairs." So, but all before that, like I wasn't used to having like a baby in the house. Like we had to like me and my brother were living upstairs, and then we had to all move downstairs. Like we renovated the downstairs. We were all down there now, so just like little things like that too that like you wouldn't think about. Like you literally have to like remodel the house so we can all like still like have like a room to ourselves. So um, but love her to death. She's the most. She has like the biggest personality out of any little kid I've ever seen in my life. Like we just had her birthday party and she's out on this on we went to the skating rink and she's out on the skates and she's doing her thing like she's been doing it for 10 years. She's wild. She's a good kid though.
It's probably a cool thing to experience at your age now too, where
Oh
it's like
yeah,
you get
it's
to
like
look at things a little bit
yeah,
differently.
it's like because it's almost like because obviously I'm her brother, she's my sister, but like I almost see it more as like an uncle thing in a way. Like I'm like that middle person where like like she sees my mom as my mom, but it's kind of weird for her to think that her mom is also my mom. I think it's just the age gap and just she's a kid, so she doesn't really like grasp that yet. That she's also my mom because I'm so much older than she is. So it's always been like that though, where I've always been like a middle person for her, like in a way, because yeah, my brother's in New York, so he's not in the house anymore. Um, I'm like in and out of the house, and I see her, but it's like a little event when I see her, because she's in school still, obviously. So I go into work at 4, so like I'm out, she just comes back, and we miss each other, like just when we're. But like when she's home, she's downstairs and she's knocking on my door, brother, brother. What do you want, Mila? So she's funny, but yeah, having her in the house was definitely like a whoa moment because um, like I never would have expected to kind of have like the feelings I do towards like her safety and her protection and like the thoughts that I have just regarding some things like seeing her out on like just like the skating rink, just for example, like I didn't know that if I had like a little sister like that, that I would feel like, yo, don't get hurt because I'll freak out. Or like I'll be watching her and I'll want to give her a snack and she'll want a snack and she can eat. But like I'll be like a nervous wreck because I think that she's gonna like choke. Cause like I don't know. It blows my mind to think about it. That I'm like, wow, like I care for this little child like so much and she's just my sister on
Yeah,
top of it.
it's like
So
it's the mix, like you said, between like almost feeling like an uncle because the age, but also like that's
yeah,
like your sister. And I
pretty
think
much.
the relationship will grow into more the sibling, obviously, as she gets older too, and
Yeah,
stuff like
that's
that.
that's a big thing that I'm just like really excited for because like when she was first being born, I don't know who I was telling it to, maybe my mom or someone, but I was like, oh, I'm so excited for when she's like 8, 9, 10 years old, and we can hop in the car, we can go to the mall, go chill, we go shopping, get lunch, like do a whole like make it a day, like hang out, you know what I mean? Because like now I'm just like watching her, and she's like, let's go outside, like that kind of stuff. Like she's like 6, so but
Did it
it's
help you
it's
kind of
a
reconnect with your childhood a little bit too? To like, as you now that you're a
um
little bit older and like you kind of get to experience it from a different perspective
I
almost.
would say I'm gonna say no, only because I just me being me, like I'm like a huge nerd. Like I've always been like a kid at heart. So like not in that way.
You're also pretty young. I mean, I'm also looking at it from like my point of view too,
Yeah.
being
So,
27.
but
So
even then, like yeah, I'm a kid. Like I buy like the action figures for my Marvel movies and stuff. Like I'm obsessed with the Marvel movies and stuff. So like I'm a kid, like at heart, So, she more brought out the side of when I was a kid, my mom's side was the bigger side of the family because I have my uncle. My dad's I'm an only child, but my mom's mom, my grandma, Gam, she had 4 siblings. So there was a big family on that side. So that was the family that we hung out with for holidays usually, for the most part. But so we would get together and stuff, and we would do our thing, and we still do Christmas every year, right at my aunt's house. It's the best. And having like Mila around too, it's like a whole different ball game now.
yeah,
With
having young kids around Christmas, that like I have a niece now, and like
that's
having like
congratulations.
um just a young baby around is like kind of brings the spirit back a little
Yeah,
bit, and it's like it's
yeah,
kind of nice.
yeah. But like, so when I was a kid, we were still doing the same thing, having Christmas with the cousins, to all the cousins, and my cousins are older than me. They're a little bit younger than my parents, but they're like hitting their 30s now,
Yeah,
mid 30s. So, but when we were a kid, like that was our cousin, and we would want to hang out. But like they're old enough to drink and cigars, the whole nine. So they would always have to like leave the kids downstairs when they went up for like the gift exchange and stuff. And so now, like having that like experience that with like my family as well, like now when she wants to be a part of like the adult time and stuff like that, with that me and my brother can now be a part of, like she wants to do that, and I feel so bad because I know exactly how she felt like now, like as like a little kid, like wanting to like hang out with the adults and hang out with her cousins and her brothers and be a part of like the games and the fun, but like she's a little kid. So I've been there and I just feel so bad. Like that's what I think about.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
with like again like less so like it brings me back to being a kid, like being a kid, but like being a kid in that regard.
yeah.
Like
It's more like the
looking at
realization too of being grown up
yeah,
now too.
exact no,
Is yeah,
exactly. That's exactly what it is. And it's a cool feeling in a way, but like again, I still feel so bad because I'm like I would love to hang out with you right now, but like it's the adult time.
yeah. I mean,
So.
that does make a lot of sense. And like, I want to take a little bit transition now into like kind of like more into your childhood a little bit, but
Yeah, yeah.
more into like the hobbies and like sport
Yeah, yeah,
aspect. I
yeah.
know we talked off podcast and I've seen on your Instagram was karate. That was
Yeah,
like a
that
huge
was my
like
big
thing.
one.
So
Yep.
I'll kind of let you go with that.
Yeah, so like right after my parents got divorced, my grandma, my dad's mom, my Gram, so there's Gam and there's Gram. So Gram, she wanted to put me in something. We decided on karate. It was the first school, like karate school that we even like tried for, and I loved it. I fell in love with it. So I did it all the way up until I was 18, until I was going to college. So from when I was 9 to when I was 18, so 9 years ish, give or take. So um, it was the best. It was my favorite thing to do. It was 2 times a week when I was a kid, and then it turned into 3 times a week, then 4 times a week. And, I was finding out that I was like having friends outside of school. So building like those relationships from something that I didn't even know that I was gonna like that was really cool. I was never like really big into sports. Like I liked playing basketball, like in the rec league and stuff when I was a kid, because that was fun. It was just for fun. And I enjoyed the sport, but I was never like a I would say traditional like sports like that you see on TV. I was never really big into any like sports like that. I don't have like the I feel like with like football for example, like you have to have control, but you also like need to know how to lose that control and like break out of the chains and like destroy the other guy on the other team. Or like basketball, like you need to have like the aggression and the dominance to strip the ball out of like the other guy's hand, or go up with the block and get like absolutely bodied. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
I was never like that kind of kid. I wasn't like an aggressive kid. I was more of like a loving kid. So but when I was doing karate, it was more individualism, and yes, there were people in the class doing the same things that I was, and we would do like hands-on, one-on-one stuff, but um, it was more for like the control of it and the forms and the movements and the fluidity of some movements and the snap of other movements. It all means something, and that was really cool to me. So um, when you start out, it's very much so like giving you a principal foundation of like their like words that they have like on the wall. Pretty much it's like for like the kids that are like 4 6, like 4 5 6 7 ish, it'll be like the big S's. It'll be like self-discipline, self-control, self-respect, stuff like that. So they're really like, I'm a person, like I need to be a good person. When you grow up a little bit, 8 9 10 11, it's more like um more specific: indomitable spirit, perseverance, honesty, integrity, loyalty. A lot of those kind of ideas that instilling on 10-year-olds is big, along with like the self-discipline of being able to hold that stance, and then or hold your leg out, sit on one leg and still have good form. And they would walk over and they'd put a pizza box on your leg, like right before you kick. Like you would just hold that kind of pose there, and then a pizza box, and you would have to hold it up there. You couldn't drop it. So like there were a lot of like things that they instilled on me at a very young age that I didn't realize till I was older, and I left, and I was like, oh, I miss it so much. Like that's a big thing why I miss it, is because like I miss like those times when we would sit there as a kid and in a big circle, and they would give us like a lesson of the month about one of the words on the wall, or like a story, a story like a lesson, a fable type story. So it's all that kind of stuff that I miss from it. But yeah, so I've been out of it for 3 years now, almost 4 years ish. Um, and yeah, I miss it, and I wish I could go back every single day and do the same thing that I did when I was 15 16, when I started to get into the like performance aspect of it. They introduce you to the different weapons that they have to offer when you're probably 13, 14-ish, maybe a little bit before that too. And, the nunchucks and the bow staff and things called commas. They're like two bladed like weapons. Super cool. But I got really invested with the bow staff, and I always had long legs, like of my group and of my like class. I would always have longer legs, so
Mhm.
it was a lot easier to kind of do some like between the legs, around the back, around like the waist, and I used to practice that shit all the time. So I would say just I hate not being like modest. Like I am like I hold myself to be kind of modest. Like I don't like flaunting stuff, but I was always a little bit better than like the other kids at it. I would say like I don't know if it was I just had more self control with it, where I could really like sit there and listen to the lesson with my hands behind my back and just stand there and not talk. I don't know if I was just bigger, so I don't know. It was something. I was more advanced, and there were like I had my group that was there were other kids that were just as advanced as I was that were moving up like higher than the younger kids. So I got invited to this class that was it was XMA, Extreme Martial Arts, and it's the same stuff that you would learn in the class. It's like brother class. It's just the more advanced version, a little bit faster paced. And they like separate the kids that are kind of a little bit higher skilled level versus the kids that are a little bit lower, just to kind of even it out. So I was doing that, and then when you're like 13, 14, they put you in the adult class. That's with the black belts who have been there for years and years, and it's tough. It's a tough group to hop into when you're so young. Um, but I did that. I was there for it would have been 5 years because I got my black belt when I was 18 or 17 rather. Um, and yeah, it was the best thing I ever did. I used to break cement and wood, you know, 3, 4 times a year. Used to bust my elbow open. Used to do flips and stuff on the floor and kicks on the bag, and we would used to hold pads as high as we could for each other and see who could hit it. And fall on the ground, bust our ass, get up laughing. I
Yeah,
I had I had the best time with it.
I always love hearing about, and part of the reason I always ask about the sports and hobbies because I
Mhm.
find it so important. And like, you really notice the individuals who did have that experience in a sport, where whether it is something like karate, whether for me it was football and
Mhm.
baseball, or for some people it's soccer or basketball or whatever type of softball, whatever type of sport it is, there's so many important values that are taught at a
Yeah.
young age.
Yeah.
And I think karate is an excellent one to teach a lot of those values. And you were talking about some of them, and like, discipline's everything. Like, how you do one thing is how you do everything.
Yep.
And that is something that is one clearly lacking in today's society, is
Mhm.
people don't know how to stick to something that they're doing
Yep.
and do it consistently. And consistency is a whole nother aspect of things. And
Mhm.
the fact that you did that for so long proves not only the discipline, but like that you're willing to show up and work hard at something,
Yep.
and that will translate later in life. And it's always interesting because you honestly hit it before I'd even say it. It's like, you don't realize the lessons you're learning until later in life.
Mhm.
Like, oh my god, like there was so many valuable points there that I just like
Yep.
completely overlooked at the time.
They
But
they stay with you, but like you don't realize that they're as important as they are until you really know. And something happens, or a relationship gets broken, or someone does something to you, or trust is lost with a friendship. Like then that stuff comes down to it, and you're like, wow, like I was the one that was the bigger person there, and I really, took that stuff to heart. Foundationally, it's just words, you know, painted on a wall, but it's you gotta use them. Obviously, like that's what they're there for. Like it's like why are they there on the wall? Like what's the purpose of having the word honesty written on the wall at the karate studio when you're just sitting there throwing a kick at a bag? Like what's the point? It's like there's a big point to it. Like learning through you know the martial arts that all those different values and all those different life lessons and those words written on the wall, like you're gonna have to use them eventually. And um, they were always telling us that like those are like black belt words. Like those are words that black belts will use like on a daily basis to frame themselves in a certain light in a way. Um, they were just very important. in that sense.
Yeah, I think that's like it's good that they have those like practices and morals and like they're instilling these important
Hmm.
values into like young kids too.
Yeah,
Cause like,
kids as young
man,
as 5,
yeah.
5 year olds sitting there in class, self discipline, self control, self respect. Like they were hitting it. My my 3 instructors, Rocky Silva's American Karate in Seekonk, Mr. L, Miss Sanders, and Mr. Silva. 3 of the best people that I've ever met in my entire life. I went back there recently. I hadn't been there in a year, probably, maybe 2 years, and same people that I left when I was, 17 years old, 18 years old, and it was amazing to see them. Like the most genuine people that I've ever met in my life, all 3 of them. Amazing. Couldn't have
I'm
asked for better instructors to, instill things upon the next generation. That
and that
makes
and like
sense.
yeah, that does. And like it's great to hear that you had such a valuable experience while doing this and that's something that you've carried through
Yep.
your life.
Yep.
And like
Surrounded myself with other people that were like-minded there at the studio. We were all being taught the same values, and I still have some amazing connections from the karate school that I hold very close to me.
so you'd say like discipline and honesty and like what kind of other what were some like the principles like of like what's like I guess it's kind of a
It
broad
was
question.
it was honesty, loyalty, perseverance, having an indomitable spirit. Um, Perseverance was always like my favorite one because I was like, nah, like you got to keep going always. Um, I'm trying to think. It's been so long since I
Yeah,
saw
yeah, I
those
know.
things.
That's why I was like it's
Honesty, loyalty, modesty. Modesty was always a big one for me too. I hate like flaunting. I think it's just like okay, like it's um again like the self control, self respect, self discipline, self defense. Um, there was a big creed on the wall that you would have to say that black belt excellence and striving for that next step and that next move or fixing that form that you keep forgetting, like, oh, I have to spin the opposite way, or oh, it's the opposite hand, or it's like wrong feet. Everything would matter during those forms, as much as instead of having both your feet forward, they like one would have to be angled or one would have to be one way, or the punch would have to be like at a certain height or a certain extension, or it was a lot. It was a lot of intricacies, but it's teaching again those younger generations to like look at stuff and like dissect it and problem solve, figure things out, get like ask for help. It's a big thing that kids I feel like are just, like no, like ask me for help. Like what do you need help with? I need help with this kick. I need help with this punch. And that's why I started doing it. I started like helping out at the school. I was very much involved anyway, and I liked being there, so I'd get there a few hours early, help out with the younger kids classes, hold pads, get thrown over my instructor's shoulder just because he wants to be like that, just for the kids to be fun. It was the best. I loved it. And then again, I started doing the performance teams, and again, I taught the performance teams as well my last year before COVID hit, and I loved working with the kids. Such great personalities, the kids. Like it's like the best. Just working with them, and instilling good, I guess, decision making and maneuverability and problem solving. Again, like that's a huge one at the school because, like, God forbid you can't do a kick. Like, what are you gonna do? Like, you're just not gonna do the kick. Like, no, you have to like figure it out. Like, you can do it. Like, you got all the foundation to do it. You got it. There'd be some kicks that, I'd be on the floor after class with my top with my like my gi top off, my belt off. I was just throwing the kick 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, like just mad times in a row until I landed there, and like until you got it exactly where you wanted it. It's dedication, perseverance. It's all that. It all comes like into the training at some point. It does. Like,
it's so important to like have those things and glad that you were able to also give back too in that
oh,
experience, which is like
always.
really
I'll
great.
I'll never give them back enough for the childhood and the lessons that they gave me. Those at that school it was amazing.
And that's really great to hear. And like the fact that you had positive experiences, you learned a lot of
Hmm.
things. And you also brought up COVID, and I want to kind of transition into like your high school experience
Yeah.
because you were in that class where you had to experience what
hmm
COVID was like during that time. So I kind of want to know a little bit about what that was like for you.
Yeah. So, um, COVID. So again, it was March what 13th it was or something like that. That was our
Yeah, it
last day
was
of
like something
schools,
around like
something like
that.
that. And I left my I think it was fashion class that I was in with a couple of my friends. We were making pajama pants with um stuff that we just bought from Joann's on a little field trip the day before, and that was the last day of school. That was the last class I ever had. And um, going online was like the worst thing ever. It I think gave a lot of kids like false ideas into how to handle like an assignment or a test or something like that. And I'm not gonna be a hypocrite and say that I didn't ever cheat on things during like an online assignment. Like, come on. But I think that there's gonna be a generation of people that kind of took that and ran with it into like their life, and they're just gonna kind of have to swindle their way through a lot of different tasks and things like that, like half-ass things, um, because they have resources that they know that they can use, but should they use them or should they, read the book and get the lesson or get the material that they need to get. So it was definitely hard to experience because I'm not an online person. I don't know if I said that. I'm not an online person at all. I really like being in a classroom surrounded by my peers with a teacher at the front board and doing the lesson, writing down notes, whatever. Um, but obviously, it was an amazing time to just be at home for a couple months and play Xbox every night, play Minecraft with my friends every single night, play Fortnite all the time. It was a good time. So that part I think I enjoyed, and again, like the band came out of that a
Yeah,
little
let's
bit.
dive into that some
Yeah,
more.
yep. Um, but like it was hard because again, like with the karate thing, like we went to online karate before I went to college, and I really didn't really like that at all. Like I didn't want to sit there in front of my laptop and do karate moves with my gi on and everything, my belt in front of a camera. Like it's
Yeah.
just that wasn't my thing, and I felt bad, but they understand. I think a lot of kids felt the same way. I think that they lost, not lost, but kids going to karate before they brought things back was like a leave of absence for a lot of like the families. Like they'd rather not pay for online karate, which yeah, it's valid. Um, but a lot of kids stayed, and I think that they got a lot of kids out of COVID. Like I think that the karate school benefited a little bit from COVID because once like it was like all back and they were like good to go. They don't need to wear masks anymore. No more like spaces on the mat. Like you don't have to be like a certain distance. Like once they were all in, families came right back. And it was awesome. Um, but I think that COVID for me, going into the school aspect of like going into college, it really impacted my first or my, I wa- I'll say my first year of school, but just my view on school as a whole right now. I didn't have the best freshman year. I went to URI and I wasn't the biggest fan of it. I found it very hard to approach people, and I found it very hard to like find a group to kind of put myself in. And it could be other factors too, just what I had going on in my life with I wanted to be home for the band as much as I could and stuff. So I was back and forth. Did I give myself the opportunity to to fully make like a friendship or a friend group? We'll never know. But I just felt like it was very hard to approach people at that point in time. Um, I don't know if it was just the each other relating to like the world in chaos at that point because it was literally the next school year after COVID. It was 2020. It was that like starting of the school year into the winter, and I lived on campus. I liked having my own space. My roommate, my first semester, well, he was a great person. I loved him. He was a cool guy. But other than that, I didn't really have a good freshman year experience with after experiencing COVID and a lot of things being affected by COVID. So
Yeah, that's what I've kind of gathered from talking to different people about their experiencing during COVID was like it was nice at first, and then the realization of like I have to do this online, this distancing, it just became very non-personable,
Hmm.
and it's hard to make those connections. And I do feel bad for a lot of people, especially anyone that was pretty much under 18 trying to experience life at that point and learning and
Hmm.
trying to go through sports and stuff. Like, so many people lost opportunities that they'll never get that back, and like that time back. And
Yeah.
we're trying to like somewhat make that up now, and things are obviously pretty much normal now.
Yeah.
Well, the new
A-
normal.
As far as that goes, yeah.
Yeah, we're pretty much there, but it's still like things are different, and like the world is
World
different, the way we approach learning is different, the
always.
way that we approach making friends is like really shifted towards
Yep.
online, the way that we date is really shifted
Yep.
towards online.
Yep.
And it's a different world than it was pre-COVID. And as someone, I was lucky to graduate obviously well before that, to
Yeah.
experience that. And I had online courses to see the back then. I was like, I like kind of liked online courses because it gave me my freedom back.
Hmm.
But I see a lot of the similar stuff where it's like, yeah, it was super easy to cheat. Like, you could easily get answers anywhere,
Yeah.
and like no one cared,
You have
and
the
like,
internet at your disposal
yeah,
anytime.
and no one really gave two shits. And like I could imagine that was like the kind of the energy surrounding a lot of
Yeah.
teachers too, was like, as long as the work gets done and
Yeah.
like they're passing, who cares?
Especially just finishing that year. And as unfortunate as it was for, that senior class, my class, um, it did, like, I think it did impact, like, the next class after us a little bit more. Because, like, we got to have a lot of, like, our stuff that seniors get to have. Like, yeah, we lost out on, like, a prom and stuff like that, and that sucks. And we did lose out on things, but we got, 4/5 out of our school year, I would say. You know what I mean? We got a good chunk of our school year still, like, accounted for, I guess, in our minds.
You
Like,
got the good beginning parts. Like,
exactly.
yeah,
And
May and like the end of May and June is fun,
yep.
like, but that beginning part of the school year is always fun too. So like,
It was our senior year. It was amazing. We were like, this is it. This is our last year. Let's do it. Um, I think a lot of people had that attitude too, which is senior year. Like, let's wrap it up. Let's get it done.
yeah, that's what I've
So,
heard too. Is like
yeah,
they're just done with it anyway.
yeah.
So it kind of was like kind of nice at the same time. It's like, all right, everything's online. This
Mm-hmm.
can be super easy. Just
Yep.
cruise the
Going
way,
to
and we're just
class in
done.
bed, like,
Yeah,
it was a whole different thing.
totally different experience. But
Hmm.
you also mentioned that COVID was the start of something really new and exciting for you.
Yeah,
So
our
let's start diving into
music.
that.
Oh yeah. Um, so it was maybe like April, or no, maybe May. I'll say May. Towards the start of summer of 2020. I had been in my house for a while. Everyone had been in their house for a while, and Zach, was like, "Oh, like, ask your dad if you can meet me at the library, like, outside, and we can play music." I was like, "Okay." My dad reluctantly agreed to let me go and see Zach because he was trying to keep everybody safe. I'll say that. And yeah, we got together at the library and with the Seekonk Meadows there, and just on a bench, and we had our acoustic guitars, and we would just sit there until the sun went down. And we weren't writing stuff per se. We were more just like goofing around, playing different songs that we both knew, um, just learning stuff. He's obviously a better guitarist than I am, so he would, I would just keep the rhythm, and he would, do his little solos and stuff. It was cool. And then we started getting our now singer and bassist, love him, my tall man, my Elijah. He joined us one day, and then we were friends with David. I played like Xbox with David, and he was like he was my good friend. So we were like, oh, like, let's get him over here too. So it was the four of us, and we all had guitars. We all knew how to play guitars, and yeah, that was it. So we had the idea of just playing music together anyway. And then one faithful day, I went to Savers and I found a used Guitar Hero drum kit, and I bought it for $8, $7, and I started playing on that, and I realized that I really like playing the drums. And then that Christmas, I got a little tiny Ludwig little pocket kit. It's called. It's like a small little kit for like an apartment setting, and it was the Questlove from Jimmy Fallon, his brand of drum kits. So I was like, I like him, so I was cool about that. It was nice. It was this blue, like light blue, like bedazzled in a way, like this weird like chromatic like feel to it around it. It was super cool. I love that kit. Um, but it was just my first kit. I had a couple cymbals to start me off, my stands. I was good. Brought the kit over to Zach's, and I used to travel it back and forth and bring it in the car, and that was kind of a hassle. So eventually just left it at Zach's, and we had the kit in the garage, and me and him would goof around on songs. And then he started bringing me music on his guitar, and then we started writing music. And um, we haven't finished any of like our first songs that me and Zach have worked on, because it was me and Zach like actually working on like songs rather than just like jamming the four of us with guitars. Um, we haven't like done anything since with those, and I haven't really expounded upon them, but like we still have them. And yeah, the rest is history with Elijah and Dave and joining us and begging and pleading of Elijah to sing for us because his voice is incredible. He wasn't the biggest fan of it at first, but we really had to like just get him going, push him, and make him exactly what we knew he could be. So we started doing that. He wanted to play bass eventually. We pushed him to play bass for us, and everything else just kind of fell into place. So Sue's Garage was born at that point, and we Sue's Garage wasn't the first choice of our name, so it was more of like it was like in like the top 5, but it wasn't like a dead set. Like we all just kind of were like, we're done like arguing about what name it should be. We're just gonna do this, yeah. So yeah, we've been playing like shows now for this is gonna be like our second season of shows, I'll say. We started playing last year, like April, end of April, I would say. We did like a little backyard show at Zach's house, and that was before we started doing like venues and stuff. Um, but yeah, it's a blast. I love it. I get very in the zone. Have you seen Soul, the Disney movie
Is that the one? I think I
with Jamie
have.
Foxx, and it's like the little soul
It's
guy?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
So
yeah,
I don't know
yeah,
if you
yeah,
I don't know
yeah.
if you remember, but there's a musician in the movie, like a street musician, and they talk
Yeah,
about
yeah.
the zone
Yes.
like that a musician is in.
Is it? It's not. What's the instrument? It's not a piano, is it? Or it's no, no. What
It's
the
like a
fuck is it?
saxophone or
Yeah,
something.
yeah,
Yeah, or like
yeah. I know
I think it's
exact.
a guitar,
I
honestly, or
remember
a
the hype around
bass.
this movie and like
Yeah,
the
so
underlying meanings. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah. That was a fantastic movie.
fantastic
Yeah,
movie. I need to
highly
watch
recommend
that.
it.
Yes, Soul. But there's this thing about the zone, and like they even do like a fun little like Knicks reference, like the New York Knicks, that like this one like a character has been messing with them because he takes them out of his zone like right before they're about to win. They just lose for a while, but like this zone that they talk about was like the biggest thing to relate to in that movie, just because of like when I'm behind the kit and there's lights on me and there's people in the crowd that are like listening, and I got my guys on stage, and I got my like Elijah's voice hitting me, and I'm going with the beat, and I don't know if you know, but like what terms of like music act like, but I'm like in the pocket, I would say, which is very like to the beat, like not very like abstract and not very um intricate. I'll say, I'll throw that word in there. Like very to the T on the beat, staying with like the bass and stuff like that. Um, and I'm in the zone. Literally, I'm in that zone from that movie. Like I'm in that plane on the ship, like floating through the music and letting it like just hit me and feeling out the song, getting all the emotions out, tongue out. It's it's the
What
best.
is like music meant to you now that you've kind of really found your groove with it as of late with the band? Like, what is it like? I know a lot of people will say that are musicians, like it's like their therapy, their
Yeah.
outlet. Like, what is it for you?
It's a good like, and to kind of like piggyback on the karate thing, it's a good like stress reliever. Like you're just banging on things like with 2 sticks. Like that's what drummers do. They just bang on things, hit things really hard. So like it's a good like it's a workout. Like you get like every emotion into it. It's like a reliever. If I could be behind a kit right now, like after this podcast, like I'd be behind a kit if I could. So um yeah, it's a release. It's a reliever. um lets like the stress go away. It's the anger that's coming out when you're staying on that time of the song, and you're smashing the cymbal and you're killing the snare drum. It's the best.
Yeah, and like I love hearing people talk about things that they're passionate about
Mhm.
because when they talk about that, they light up differently. And
Yeah.
you're doing it right now
Yeah.
without even like
Yeah.
realizing
Yeah.
it. And like
It's like it's a love hate with the drum kit. It really is.
I can imagine, I mean, it's anything that's like when it's like your craft, like there's that frustration, like you're gonna have good days, you're gonna have bad
Yeah,
days, but like
literally.
at the end of the day, it's what you love doing. It's like
Mhm.
so fun and it's just
Yeah.
like when you talk about the zone, like it just like that's how I feel with like doing the podcast.
Yeah.
Like I just get
Like
fucking in the
you're here
zone.
right
Like
now.
yeah.
Like yeah.
And that's like one of my favorite things about creating this experience is like not only just the recording, but like people don't see the before and after.
Yeah.
Like for the most part, I'm not on my phone, and usually my guests not on their phone. Like we're
Mhm.
in the moment having a long
Yeah.
conversation,
Yeah, we
and
sat
like
it for how long? And
it's been pretty much like 2 hours.
yeah, we've been yeah,
We're
having a
deep into
great
this, and
conversation.
I'm saying like last week with my buddy Johnny Costa came
Mhm.
on for his second appearance. He was like, and I used it as like my clip on the Instagram was
Yeah.
like
Oh, I saw. I saw.
he's like that was like one of the longest conversations that I've had with someone in a long
Right.
time, and it's
Yeah.
like
I could say the same. I could say the
it's
same. Yeah.
crazy to think about that
Yeah.
though. Is like it's become so normalized to me to sit down and talk to people week after week after week and year after year after
Mhm.
year that like I forget people just don't be doing this anymore.
Yeah,
And
I
it's
know.
like
I mean, we just like. I mean, obviously, like we've been like chatting on Instagram and like in contact a little bit because you with the other guys too. But like, this is the first time I met you. We're having a fantastic conversation. I loved every minute of this. This is awesome.
yeah, and that's like the coolest thing is like usually for them like I would say I don't know like 100. This is the 136th episode. Let's say like maybe
36.
it's
Crazy.
yeah, that's crazy. It blows my mind every time that I think about it. This is like I'm in year 4 technically of doing podcasting,
Crazy.
and but the fact that like maybe a third of my guests were people that I just never knew, like
Mhm.
in person,
That's
and
awesome.
I meet them on a
This is
podcast
a
and
great
we just
space to
talk.
have people. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just chance to kind of break down some walls and like learn some more about someone
Yeah.
that I didn't know prior, and just how many people actually ask is the thing. And
Yeah.
I'm like, I could do something with this, and I've always been a pretty introverted person,
Mhm.
but this has allowed me a comfortable space to
Yeah.
kind of create a little bit and tap into that creativity. And as a musician, I wonder like does that place when you're like playing or at a show did that allow you to really tap into that creative aspect
Oh
of
yeah.
you?
It's because it's all of it. Really is because it's sitting in the garage like what Sue's garage, like, we play in a garage, like, I hope you know that, like, we're in the garage, but, like, again, when I'm just sitting behind the kit with the guys, like, in f jackets in the winter, yeah, it's the same as being in the studio with our producer, Randy, Newcastle Sound, shout out, Barrington, Rhode Island. He's a great guy, like, being at the kit there, the same feeling as being on stage, um, it's all the same to me in the sense that, like, I'm playing my instrument, I'm feeling out everything, expanding. Like I've started noticing myself because I don't hold myself to like a super like high standard. I would say like
I probably taught you modesty, so I wouldn't. Yeah, yeah.
again, I'm modest. Like I don't like flaunting. So to myself, I don't hold myself to like a super high standard. But um, like I've just started noticing myself. I'm like, oh damn, like I can do that now. Like that's pretty wild. Just like I'll hit like a certain little riff on the drums, or I'll hit a little like weird little like a diddle or something like that. It'll be something I didn't even know that I could do, and then I hit it, and then I hit it again, and it's like, oh, I'm consistent at it now too. Like that's crazy, and like I've only just started realizing that, but it's a cool feeling. And again, it's all the same with um being like live. Like you learn different things about playing live music versus studio time behind the kit, or practice time behind the kit, or just sticking around behind the kit just to jam with somebody. It's again, it's that reliever, and it's like such a great outlet because I have like the purpose to put it towards something. And that's why I love the band. Like I love being a part of that. Like it's such a cool experience like to be just like making music and just like starting to get out there with like like the marketing side of it and like the promotion side of things. And it's they're all their own animals in their own way, like to handle and to cage. So It's just an amazing learning thing for the four of us right now, and getting our feelings out there and putting our minds to something. My dad right now, he's been grilling me about getting out there and just like cold calling places and reaching out to people and just like expanding like the network that we are trying to build with like the music and stuff. And he's been, just do it, do it, do it. Like just like no, 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 do it. Like I'll be like, oh no, no, do it. Like just call him. Like what are you gonna do? Like what's there to lose? Like do it. And like that's like the approach that I've been trying to take with the music, because at this point, like everything matters. Getting the social media aspect, getting again the marketing, the promotion, the having the network of other bands that we can hit up and ask about them to play a gig. Um, uh, we have this festival. Again, I'm gonna do a big shout out. Everyone in Seekonk having a festival July 8th, Shoes Garage and the American Drum Company near the grist mill. We're putting together this again. We're reaching out to all these bands. We're gonna have 8, 9 bands, and it's kind of this event is giving us um, is really like letting us have the headspace to think about putting something like this together just ourselves, and partnering with a business with them, and you know putting together something cool. Like I don't think there's a lot of like live music in town really. I mean, there's like restaurants and stuff obviously, but like events that go down, like there's some here and there, but a full music event, I mean, it's cool. So it's a big experience to undergo, trying to put together a big festival like that.
Yeah, I can
So
imagine. I mean, you heard it here first in the Carroll Connection, guys.
July 8th, I want everyone there. It's gonna be a Seekonk Bash. It's
Gotta
gonna be
post that in
music. Oh yeah,
like
there's
the Con Connect. Like
yeah.
that'll be a way
Oh yeah, that
to share it.
yeah.
Like, because if you,
That's
especially
what
if
that
you're
is, yeah.
going with the local aspect, that's a good way to get it out
Yeah.
there too for local
It's
people.
all about exposure, for the company that we're like our partners in this,
Mhm.
and for us, um, we do like being like staying local and everything, and it's a really cool thing to like give back to the community a little bit and give a space for people to hang out, listen to cool music, and get involved. I guess
Yeah,
because again, this the American Drum Company, um they're huge into exposure right now. They're brand new, but the owners, Carissa and Tom, I can already tell that they're amazing people. That they're so into working with us and involved with us, and they're very open with ideas, and they're just great people. And they have like lessons over there and repair and historical pieces. It's like a mini drum museum that, like when you walk in the place. It's like Revolutionary War era stuff, like stuff from hundreds of years ago. It's awesome, and they're great people to work with. And that like networking aspect is super cool too with the band. It's a really cool thing to
yeah. I
have
mean,
to
I
handle.
literally the post that I had actually today for the quote was from what Johnny said last week was, if you're not affecting your neighbors, how are you going to change the world?
Hmm.
And why I shared that was like the same what you're talking about was like you got to make the impact in the people around you and the community around you first before like it ever before any endeavor you embark on becomes something big.
Hmm.
Is you got to start local, and the more you pour into local, the more stronger the base is.
Yep.
And it goes back to even what we talked about in the beginning of the podcast. If you have a good foundation, everything falls on top of that. You can
Yep.
always go back to it, whether you have an instance like we'll talk about music, say someone leaves a band or something like that, or um I don't know, some random shit happens. If you have a good foundation, a good core fan base, a good core group of guys that stick to it,
Hmm.
you'll always be good.
Yep.
Same thing with podcasting. We'll have a good core of listeners and supporters, and I'm a good host and stick to the consistency
Yep.
aspect and the foundation of my core values, I'll always be good. And it just goes back to the discipline, the consistency, all stuff we've related to on this podcast is over and over is a lot of the stuff that will make you successful in life if you follow these kind of like steps that,
Yep.
and if you learn them early on and early enough, you'll be years ahead of a lot of people. We are getting towards the end of the
Hmm.
podcast, but I do want to ask you something else before I get to my last question.
Yep.
Is you talked a little bit about the marketing and social media. How has that been for you and like kind of like seeing what's out on social media and like do you ever compare your band to the stuff you see on social media, how do you handle that?
Yeah.
Like, what is that for you?
Yeah, it's a beast. It really is. It's a machine. It's you got to get like the right key to fit for the social media and promotion and marketing aspect of having a name. Like the band is the music, obviously, and us, and everything that goes into it. But it's the name. It's the Sue's Garage like name. Like that's what it is. So with that, it comes like putting that name out there and getting that name bigger. So it's definitely a challenge to keep up with the social media aspects. It's not everyone's favorite part. Like no one wants to have to post like about like no one wants to like be excited to post their new song and then they have to go to Instagram and post about their new song. Like it's just like another like level of things that you need to do just to get like the word out there. And yeah, it's a beast. It's tough to handle, definitely. Like TikTok, Instagram, they all have their own different kind of algorithms and how things get out. Instagram is different from TikTok, as that's different from YouTube, and YouTube to Twitter. Like there's a lot of different things that you could do with it, but they're all very different, and that's what's challenging about it because you need to kind of cater to a bunch of different audiences, a bunch of different platforms. So we're doing our best at Sue's Garage Band on Instagram. You can find us there, and yeah, it's tough. Instagram.
I can understand this. Creating a content space is something I've had to learn how to do, and how to learn the algorithms, the hashtags, the trending audio. So there's so many different things that I had to learn to like post my stuff and how to edit and how to take the visuals, how to add these cameras and the mics. And there's a lot of stuff. And I always like to give credit to people who are in the space and doing their thing, whether it's music, whether it's selling clothes, whether it's doing logos, graphic design, like anything creative. Like I always like to give flowers to those who try and actually do something versus just kind of doing the normal shit. So I mean, I think what you guys are doing is really great, and I've said it on multiple podcasts. So you guys make fantastic music.
Thank you.
So I think the more you guys keep doing it, the better you guys get, and the further you guys go. And I think it's just kind of up to you guys how far you want to take it, but always make sure that you enjoy the music and enjoy the content that you do.
We enjoy what we put out. And it's funny because we talk about it. We're like, if we had to choose what genre of music that we would like to play in a band, each of us, it'd probably be different. But I think that that's what makes the music cool, is that it's like a lot of combination of different things that all influence us differently in different ways. My punk genre versus Zach's rock genre versus Elijah's grunge versus David's math rock intricacy stuff. Like it's all like a blend of everything, and it's really cool to make. But we're in the lab right now. The cauldron's going. We're stirring stuff up, adding, taking away. We got some stuff coming, so I'm really excited to get back in the studio and put it out for everybody to give it a listen. So,
and I'm excited to hear what you guys got cooking up, and just keep doing the shows and keep promoting. And I'm excited to see that. I do have one more question for you. Last question, how I like to wrap up all my podcasts with the guests who come on the first time is, what would your advice be for someone who wants to pursue their passion?
I would definitely say that you gotta really figure that out of what your passion is first, and then once you feel as though, because I think once you know what you really like to do, whether that's a job or something else, a hobby. I think that if like the steps necessary to pursue that, it's like trust the process, and work hard at it, and really believe that it's what you want to do. I wouldn't be behind the drum kit with my guys on stage if it wasn't what I wanted to do. And again, I wouldn't even have known that I wanted to do that unless I took like that leap of faith with just playing with like music with Zach or karate. I wouldn't have known how much I love that if I didn't just sign up just because my grandma wanted me to. So it's just the process about your passion. Work hard and just keep at it, because as long as like you're working hard, like what's there to lose? Like if you're giving something your all, and like at least you gave it your all.
I think that's perfect advice, Tyler, and I really appreciate you for coming on the podcast.
Of course, thanks for having me.
And
loved it.
This was something a long time in the wait, and I've been
I know.
So it's like I'm trying to space out all you guys.
Yeah,
and then
that's okay.
Eventually, I can kind of like when you guys want to like drop music, I can like kind of group you
Yeah,
guys and try to do a
we'll all
podcast
be
and like
back for sure.
yeah, and I'm excited to do that, and I'm excited to. I'm always here to try to promote your music and stuff
Yeah.
like that. So whenever you guys got stuff cooking
Can I
up,
do
just
I think a quick little shout out?
yeah.
April 2nd in Providence at the Alchemy. Sue's Garage will be there April 2nd. Again, July 8th for the festival in Seekonk. We don't have a name for it yet, but it'll be right next to the gristmill there. And be on the lookout for new music.
Perfect. Zach, I appreciate you for coming on the podcast. And for you guys, if you guys like the podcast, please rate, review, subscribe, share it with your friends, share it with your family, share it with your grandma. You can check it out at thecarrollconnection.simplecast.com. Also available Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and all the major listening platforms. If you like to watch your podcast, you can search on YouTube at The Carroll Connection or at Jared M. Carroll. And if you want to be a guest or return as guest, hit me up on Instagram at Jared M. Carroll or at The Carroll Connection. Until next time, guys, peace.